Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the regular DeKalb City Council meeting of June 9th. I would like to call the meeting to order. Roll call, please.
Zazada.
Here.
Larson.
Here.
Smith. Carlson.
Here.
Powell. Verbic. Here. Walker. Mayor Barnes.
Here.
6 present.
And just to let everyone know, Alderman Powell and Alderman Smith both let me know ahead of time that they would not be able to be here. With that, moving on to agenda item B, Pledge of Allegiance. Captain Hy-Vee, you want to lead us in the pledge tonight?
Absolutely, sir.
Thank you.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sure thing. Thank you much. All right, moving on to agenda item C, approval of the agenda. I would take a motion to approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderwoman Zazada, seconded by Alderwoman Larson. Any comments or questions? Oh, stop. If there's a motion, I want to make a modification to the agenda. Can I just disregard the motion and second?
You'll need a motion to amend. That supersedes this motion. So you can ask for it.
Okay. Can I have a motion to amend the agenda?
So
moved. To add, I'll be clear, to add the appointment of Amy Levine to the Citizens Police Review Board. You all have her application on your desk. I just didn't get that to Ruth in time before the agenda went out. So can I have a motion to make that modification?
So moved.
Second. Moved by Alderman Carlson, seconded by Alderman Verbic. Any comments or questions on that? So hearing none, roll call, please.
Larson.
Yes.
Carlson.
Yes.
Verbic.
Yes.
Walker.
No.
Zazada.
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
5.
All right, the modified agenda has been approved. That moves us on, and that makes moot the original motion in second, right? Okay. Moving on to agenda item D, presentations. Number 1, presentation of the final draft of the FY 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, ACFR. City Manager, you kicking us off, or?
I will. With us tonight is Brian Lefevre, a principal with Sikich, who is the firm that's been doing our independent audit, and he has a presentation for you tonight. Later on the agenda, we'll have a resolution to adopt the final draft that he will be discussing.
Wonderful. Go ahead, sir. Evening.
On behalf of Sikich, I'd like to thank the mayor and city council for inviting us to present some comments on the report resulting from the audit of the city for your year ended December 31st, 2024. The first observation is it's a draft document. You usually don't get a draft at this first meeting in June. There were some, and the reason for that tonight is we've done all of our procedures and testing. We're ready to sign the opinion, except we're missing one document, and that comes from IMRF, and it's their annual comprehensive financial report. So their auditors have to sign off on their financial statements. They've also been presented a draft at the IMRF board, and I've been in touch with the executive director of IMRF a week ago today, and he thought they would have their final report a week to 10 days. So we're at a week right now. So hopefully we'll have that this week. What happens then is we then provide the city what's called the representation letter. You sign off, Bill signs off to say, yes, we've given you everything that you need for your audit. We then sign our opinion. So there's not going to be any changes, but we do need to make sure we follow our standards and work through that process. So just wanted to make sure I explained that all to you. So the annual comprehensive financial report, which I believe is in your electronic packet, is similar form to what you've seen in the past, an introductory, a financial, and a statistical section. For those of you that haven't seen it before, what's required for an audit under Illinois compiled statutes is what's all contained in the financial section. What makes it a comprehensive report is that introductory and statistical section. And within the introductory section, probably about 20 pages back in the electronic packet, is the award the city received for its 2023 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, and it comes from the Government Finance Officers Association, the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting. And this is the highest level of financial reporting within the local government industry. The award that you received for 2023 was your 30th consecutive year receiving that award, so you should all be commended for that. It's considered to be the most transparent way of presenting municipal finances. If you are following along in the electronic packet, another 10 pages back or so is where we've given our draft opinion on the financial statements. As you know, in its final form, it'll be on Sikich letterhead, it'll be signed by myself. And in order for us to give an opinion on the city's financial statements, we follow two sets of standards, the auditing standards and the financial reporting standards. The auditing standards come from the AICPA and tell us the types of procedures we need to perform when we're conducting our audit. The financial reporting standards come from GASB, the Governmental Accounting Standards Board, and GASB tells us what the financial statements need to look like. And so there's a number of standards that the city's had to implement, especially a lot the last couple of years, anything from leases to software subscriptions. And this year, there was some revisions to how the liability is reported for employees' compensated absences or, vacation, sick time, et cetera. So that is reported on these financial statements. Once we follow all of those standards, we can then issue an opinion. We're pleased to present an unmodified opinion. And what that means is that it's another word for a clean audit opinion. The financial statements are presented fairly in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles, free of material misstatements. So that's the highest level of opinion that you can receive on your financial statements. In addition to the financial statement audit, the city is also required to follow other steps. The city typically has always had over $750,000 in expenditures of federal awards. And so at that point, and again this year, you had a little over $7.6 million in expenditures of federal awards. You're required to have what's called a single audit, which is a compliance audit of your expenditures of federal dollars. So each and every year, we go through the process of that the federal government has designed for determining what programs are going to be tested. This year there were two what the feds would call major programs. One was your COVID-19 dollars, which were in the form of transportation grants. That was just under $3 million. And then your SAFER grant, which comes from Homeland Security, which is for the fire departments, expanding staff there, was just under $1 million. So those were the two programs that were major programs that were tested. Along with that report, there were two opinions that were both unmodified or clean opinions there. One is on internal control over financial reporting, didn't have any material weaknesses there. And then the second piece of that first opinion is that we had no issues with compliance with laws and regulations that could have a material impact on your financial statements. The second piece to that is that we had no findings or question costs on those major programs that we tested. And so all good information and good news on the single audit front. You also have tax increment financing districts that have compliance piece for the state of Illinois. And those are an unmodified opinion on your compliance with the laws and regulations for TIFs in Illinois. So more good news there. There's also a separate report for your state filing that we given in relation to opinion on that allocates your state and federal grants as well for compliance with what's called the Governmental Accountability and Transparency Act in the state of Illinois. Good information there. Just a couple other items to bring to your attention in the document is the management's discussion and analysis. I realize the entire report is a lengthy document. The management discussion and analysis isn't the executive summary. It's where the city has prepared an analysis comparing 2023 with 2024 and really giving you a lot of good information there. That's the starting point in this document. And that document, the management discussion and analysis, along with your annual budget document, in my opinion, are two of the key documents that if you have constituents that are looking for information about the finances of the city, that in my opinion would be your starting point. Besides the management discussion and analysis, just one item from an overall financial position standpoint. As outlined in the memo to you this evening with your board packet, fund balance performed well in your general fund. You did have an increase in fund balance, and you're continuing to perform in compliance with your fund balance policy so that your reserves are over and above what's required in your fund balance policy. In the required supplementary information section is information related to IMRF funding, police pension funding, fire pension funding. You're funding exactly what's required by your independent actuaries for police and fire, and then obviously by the actuaries from IMRF, you fund based on a percent of covered payroll. So you'll find all that information there. All of the funded statuses for all three of the funds did increase year over year from 23 to 24. 24 was a good year in the markets. Both police and fire outperformed their actuarial return. Obviously, that the managing of those funds is in the state consolidated funds. And both of those funds had strong years, as did IMRF as well. So all good news there. Probably the last thing to bring to your attention is the staff that we work with here at the city, very professional, easy to work with. We have not only time here at the city that we're looking at documents, but there's a lot of time that we're working remotely, and then we have regular follow-up calls to keep things on task. And so just wanted to make sure that you all understood that you have great talent here, and the audit is a high priority. This date was on my calendar, 9 months ago when we planned the schedule, and despite the hiccup from IMRF, we determined that it was appropriate to present to you a draft document because we don't anticipate any changes. Those are the highlights for you, but I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay. Bill, do you have any further
No,
comments?
just appreciate Brian's comment about our finance staff, and Susan Hallman is here tonight to take an appropriate bow. Take a bow.
Council, any comments or questions? For me, it's, as always, every year, our audit comes through, which we really appreciate our partner Sikich for, making sure going through that everything's in the right place and procedures are happening the way they're supposed to. But definitely got to commend you, city manager, and the Rockstar finance team of just the work that you all do to make sure that we get the credit ratings that we have, to get the response that we have from the auditors. And I know the taxpayer appreciates just the due diligence you all put in to make sure that our finances, every penny is accounted for, and a second set of eyes is looked at it. So thank you, staff, and thank you, Sikich.
Thank you. Really enjoy working with the city.
Absolutely. And you don't have to stay if you want to. I know you're a busy man.
Thank you. I
Head on
appreciate
up.
that.
Yep, you betcha. All right, moving on to agenda item E, public participation. We have one, Mr. Sid Kincaid. And as a reminder, sir, there is a 3-minute limitation.
I'd like to make it clear to the rest of council and the public that the the dissatisfaction with Alderwoman Carolyn Zasada that you may have seen on social media is not partisan, nor is it unwarranted. I first met her during the Bernie Sanders campaign in 2016 and still consider myself a progressive, so what I have to say tonight is not coming from some right-wing hack like Mr. Charvat. In fact, I asked her to run for city council after she lost her race in 2018 for county clerk. But that is a decision that I have learned to regret, as she has shown me a character that lacks integrity and cannot be relied upon to perform even the most simple task. She has lied to me repeatedly. She has failed at times to meet with constituents or respond to their emails in a timely fashion. She has voted against our best interests without sufficiently explaining her votes. Compare the fires that we had in the Annie Glen North neighborhood last year. Alderman Walker was present for the one on Hillcrest because that was within his ward. But the one on Kimberly, of which I had a bird's eye view of, I could see the mayor, the city manager, but I could not see my own elected representative. I know the excuse that I'm likely to hear about that is that city council is a part-time job. It is my understanding that you receive pay for preparing for and attending meetings, but she has not been in attendance for the past 5 out of 6 city council meetings. I'm sorry, I'm angry. The citizens of the First Ward deserve a leader who is going to be committed to service and present at times of emergency. Not some chronically absent volunteer who meekly raises her hand to say, I can do maybe Tuesdays. It is for this reason that I concur with other calls for her resignation and for the mayor to appoint a more serious candidate. To anybody who feels harmed, insulted, or ignored by her lack of duty, I sincerely apologize, as I believed at the time she would have been a better public servant than she is. Thank you for your time, council.
All right, moving on to agenda item F, appointments. We have the appointment of Amy Levine to the Citizens Police Review Board. Do I need a motion for that? Yes.
Yes.
Can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Carlson, seconded by Alderman Verbeek. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Carlson,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker. No. Zazada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
5 yea.
All right, so Amy Levine has been appointed. Moving on to agenda item G, consent agenda. Number 1, minutes of the regular city council meeting of May 27, 2025. Number 2, accounts payable and payroll through June 9, 2025 in the amount of $4,123,220.88. 3, investment and bank balance summary through April 2025. 4, year-to-date revenues and expenditures through April 2025. And 5, crime-free housing bureau report, May 2025. Can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as is?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Verbeek, seconded by Alderwoman Larson. Comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker. Yes. Zazada,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Mayor Burns.
Mayor Barnes.
Barnes.
Yes.
Sorry.
That's all right.
My spelling is terrible.
The consent agenda has been approved. Moving on to agenda item H, public hearings, we have none. Agenda item I, number 1, for considerations. Consideration of the state legislature's elimination of the 1% statewide tax on grocery sales effective January 1st, 2026. City manager.
Thank you, Mayor. In considering a challenge that was posed for a lot of other municipalities and towns and villages in our community by the legislature's elimination of the 1% grocery tax at the state level, I was concerned about just devolving into what city managers usually do, which is to tell you what the fiscal impacts would be. I wanted to also look at what the consumer impacts would be to test in a little more detail than other studies I've been looking at, particularly what the impact would be on the poorest among us, people who might, by argument, be most impacted. And so there's a fair amount of information in your background that goes into some detail. I'm not going to repeat all of that, but I just want to hit a few high points and invite conversation with the council. We know what the enactment of the state legislature back about a year ago meant, and at the same time that the state 1% tax was to go out on January 1st, 2026, according to that enactment. It also opened the door for communities such as ours to, if they chose, impose a replacement 1% tax. But it had to be done in a reasonable order and before I believe the deadline is October. So I thought it was important at this time to address this for a couple of reasons. One is that it's within a month that we'll be wrestling, we at the staff level will be wrestling with deep really into numbers, projected revenues, projected expenditures for the FY26 budget, and it's in the middle of August that we'll be bringing some assumptions to you for review in conjunction with the Finance Advisory Committee. And so I know from experience, and I've been, I guess, author of the process at the staff level, that there's no time to lose. If we're talking about $800,000, it's a significant amount of money. How does that impact the services that we want to provide? So I've looked at this. The facts are this, and I'll just mention some of the salient facts, and then we can get into more detail if you like. One is that the poorest persons in Illinois, in our community, anywhere in Illinois, who would qualify for what used to be called public aid is now called Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, and or SNAP, if you will, are persons that currently are not paying the 1% tax. It's important to note. And what is that a tax on? What specifically is being taxed? And what does grocery mean? It means a number of things, but here's what it doesn't mean. The tax does not fall on, generally speaking, on what's known as food at home purchases. So things that you pick up in the grocery store, you're going to eat them at home. You're not going to eat them on the way home. You're going to prepare something healthy, preferably. And most of the commodities that can be purchased if you are part of the SNAP program without paying the 1% tax are healthier. It includes those items sold by weight. So when you go through the checkout lane and you're wondering, can we hurry this up? No, people are looking and weighing fresh vegetables and fruit. Also possibly weighing some of these prepackaged packages of food, meats and other things. Also breads and bagels, even some sweets, prepackaged but meant to be eaten at home. So you don't usually buy a tub of ice cream and then binge on it on the way home. Maybe that's been done. But you might pick up a Klondike bar. That is, you're going to pay tax on that because that's considered something that's packaged and ready to eat, not something that you take home. What is not covered? What do you have to pay the 6.25% on, whatever your income level is? Well, there's a variety of things, and I itemize them in some detail in my background, but just to give you an idea. So it's soft drinks, candy, tobacco, adult use cannabis, prescription and non-prescription drugs, almost anything having to do with grooming and hygiene, and there are a lot of grocery stores that have aisles and aisles of all of that. That is fully taxed at 6.25%. So it's the 1%, and so persons who are eligible for the SNAP benefits, which by the way, if you are, and there are 10 different size families that they look at, I'm not going to go through all that, but as an example, if you're a family of 4, and you there's nobody who is disabled or over 55 in your household, you get a certain amount. And it's about just under $1,000 a month, and annually about just under $12,000. That's the max. It's at 165% of the federal poverty level. If you did have somebody in your household who was a senior citizen and or disabled, it would go up to 200% of the federal poverty level, and you get a higher number. And we could mince over the numbers, but that's basically the allowance. And when you go through a checkout, if, for instance, you forgot your card and you got to pay cash, or you've got a whole bunch of coupons, you're going to pay the 6.25%. So the deal is, you remember, you bring the card, and the card is what you need for those digital cash registers. They see it, you have a PIN number, and that is entered, and hopefully it all goes smoothly so persons who are using the link card are not embarrassed or in any other way identified as persons who are at a certain income level. So that's the system. What would it save a person? Well, there have been national studies which are available on the internet, and I looked at those. Not as many state studies in Illinois as national studies on how much households would spend on food at home, these categories I mentioned to you, the healthy categories, we'll say. And the last numbers, of course, there's always a timeline. The 2022 to 23 numbers, that's best I could get, even though they're current numbers on sizes of households in the state of Illinois. But so the persons in the lowest quintile, so we divided all persons in the United States, families into 5, the richest and those who are making the least. And so it's somewhere between $3,600 and $4,000 a year that the families who have the most modest means are spending on food at home. So if it's a 1% tax, how much would they be paying on that? $36 a year. So the savings is not huge. Even at the highest level, and that is, by the way, it's $8,500 a year. I suspect it would be up from that too. But using that as a number that we see in the national studies, that's $85 savings a year. So we're not talking about, as originally I think explained to the public about a year ago, hundreds of dollars a year that people would be able to serve. It's a smaller number. And I put that in the background because I think it's important to note just what the impact is so we know, are we betraying our public trust here just because we want to take care of some fiscal issues of our own? Or is it something that we're trying to do in order to maintain certain kinds of services which also directly benefit persons of any income level, including those who qualify for a variety of things such as our human services budget every year, which serves many of the same people who might be on the SNAP program, but not exclusively, obviously. So the sum of all this is, and I'll stop and we can have some back and forth, is that I'm recommending that we pass a local tax as a replacement tax. It's not an additional tax. This year, before the deadline is reached. Failing that, the impact on services will be discernible. The roughly $800,000 that we collect from the 1% tax is per year right now would hire 6 to 7. This would be all in pensions, benefits, and so forth. 6 to 7 firefighters or police officers. We're down 4 right now on the police side, and we're down 4 on the fire side just because we haven't, for this year, been able to get to that point. We've had some, there's always a little bit of turnover, some retirements and so forth. So we haven't even hit our funding goals for that yet. And if you wanted me to find you a way to do that without that 800,000, it would be a more difficult problem to do. The other thing is that we are trying to gradually up the amount of money we put into human services programming. And I didn't recommend that we cashier that, but it's just to note that we're committed to that. And if we can't be committed to all things in all ways, so we have to make some choices. These are not easy policy decisions, although I think as you look at the facts and you get under the cape of what's been the public debate in the last couple of months, I think you see that it's a fair, maybe not perfect, but a fair decision to go ahead and think about that 1% local tax. I'll stop.
Council, questions, comments?
Mayor.
Oh, go ahead. Alderman Burke.
Bensonville, City of Bensonville ran a referendum on this question, and I think 91% voted against the replacement
grocery taxes, which is about the feedback I'm getting from conversations around Ward 6 and DeKalb. It's been good to have this amount of lead time. In other words, we've known about this for a while, and how do we best prepare for it? So questions that came up were, well, to your comments, City Manager, and what you included in your backup is, what are the scenarios if we don't collect the $800,000? What are some options of how we find those cost savings to be able to provide savings to the entire city? So that's more of what I'm looking for, is recommending that we see a couple of scenarios for cost savings coming into budget season, and how do we best manage. Again, we've seen in our estimations over the coming years the challenges ahead. When do we get started on finding out what it means to live within our means?
Alderwoman Larson.
I've had a few people reach out to me, and I say, okay, but what do you want to give up? Do you want to give up repaving our roads? Oh, no, we have a lot of roads that still need work. I said, well, what social services do you want to give up? I said, we had people come in from VAC, and there's a waiting list for Meals on Wheels. You want to take even more away from that? Oh, no, I don't want to do that. And so I'm just like, you can't have your cake and eat it too. So it's just kind of like, this just keeps us where we have been. And then hopefully we were able to adjust higher up some of the monies that we've given for social services for our original budget. But everybody's like, nobody wants to give up anything. They don't want to pay it. But nobody, every time I say, well, how about this or how about that? No, I don't know. No, we need that. So, I mean, a referendum, but it's like, if we did something like a referendum, it'd be like, and what are you going to give up? I mean, we can't, that's just what I've heard.
Oh, I don't support a referendum. I was just giving that as an example.
Yeah.
Alderman Carlson.
Well, I'm new, so of course 3 weeks, but am I correct that if the state wouldn't have eliminated it, we wouldn't even be voting on this?
That's correct.
So it's not like we brought this up. It's not like that we're for or against this. It's staying in the same way it's been. Not giving up any of the services, not stopping the paving, not stopping that, and staying on the status quo. It's just putting it on us instead of the state. That's what this is. So to me, if it's DeKalb taking care of DeKalb, that's what we do.
Yes, Alderwoman Zada.
So from the get-go, I was like a hard no, but obviously the city manager makes such compelling arguments. It's really hard to to not see it his way. So, you know, I was one of the positives I want to throw out there of not choosing to do the grocery tax. Imagine we don't do it and Sycamore does, and then maybe that does bring a few more people our way to shop. So just a thought. You know, I was just reviewing the budget, and I don't know if we had decided what direction we were going to go with our cannabis taxes. But I know we've got shortfalls in lots of directions with our pension crisis. So I'm in a tough spot, I'll say. I don't know which is the right answer. I think I need to bring it to my constituents more and hear what they have to say about it.
Yep, City Manager.
Just want to say just a couple things, I guess. 80% of our general fund spending, over $50 million a year, goes into personnel. And those aren't just people hired because we love our people and we want to give them jobs and so forth. These are services that people demand. So you want a fourth fire station, so that means some more firefighters. And you want to deal with certain types of bullying and crime in the community, it means some additional police officers. We've done that. We've done incrementally and slowly. This hasn't been abrupt and knee-jerking. And people are generally pleased that now we have enough police officers to do a regular patrol, in addition to fighting crime in other ways, dealing with speeders and so forth, and firefighters. We've upped the the action, I guess you'd say, and we're responding faster. And now we've got a truck coming out of Station 1, and so that is what it goes for. And I mentioned we could do what we did during COVID. I mean, we froze. We were about in the same period, and a little bit further along in a year, but that was in late March, early April, and we made decisions before we did a bunch of hires that we were going to do at the time. Let's just freeze hires. That would get us there, but it would also deprive us of some other things. Because, as an example, the police was 75, which is what we're slated to have by the end of this year. We were able to do those patrol things. Right now, we're at 71 because of some turnover and so forth, and we're to hire up. So if you freeze that, now you've taken away the ability to do some of those neighborhood patrols that most of you say is important, and we like to be able to do. And Chief is able with his command staff to shift people around. I didn't even mention Public Works here, so that's something, that's a department is just as familiar with the general public as fire and police, maybe more often in the neighborhoods, but just sort of quietly. They're not going under lights and sirens. They're there, they're pruning trees, they're fixing catch basins, they're plowing snow, they're doing all the rest of that, which unfortunately, we probably take for granted, but they're there too. So we could put constraints on that. I don't think then we've achieved anything, because the difference and the impact on the poorest among us is negligible. I'm not making that up. I mean, you can see the numbers. Let's debate the numbers then. But that's based on and in fact, the municipal league, which represents 1,234?
1,294
94, sorry.
municipalities in the state.
Municipalities, which includes cities, villages, and towns in our community, was responsible for hiring people to do the analysis, which I've represented here and replicated for you. I didn't do all this analysis myself. I mean, this took the better part of a year to collect all this information using Department of Revenue sources and also other sources, and also looking at the federal government sources, the Bureau of Labor Statistics. So I was as surprised as anybody to see this, but the book is sort of there. We could wait, but I don't think we find anything else about our budget. Mr. LaFavor was here. We've been living within our means. We haven't been leaping forward except as revenue presents itself. I don't think we have anyway. So to be able to do that in the future, I think that if it was 80,000, I suppose I'd say I'll find that. We'll take it out of a capital fund or something like that. But it's 10 times that amount of money. So and after looking, I mean, I don't know of any municipalities recently in the last month, and this is coming up now because the clock is ticking, who have taken a position that's not. Now, some have, but not much more than a handful around the state. And I did 50 just by going on the internet 1 weekend, 2 weekends ago. And I could have tripled that. But it's just, those are names, those are Northern Illinois, for the most part, communities that we know.
Alderman Larson.
And just kind of jumping in with Alderman Carlson, why are we bringing this up now? Sorry. When our governor brought this up, it's like, oh, what a humanitarian thing. Oh, this is so lovely to help out poor people, to not be taxed. Lovely. At the time, the way it worked, all the taxes that we collected from groceries went to Springfield. They did what they did, and it all came back to us. Now, the way it is, if we collect it on our own, it goes down to Springfield, and they take 3% of it. So now, the state, who got none of the grocery tax before, they now make 3% on every municipality who, am I correct on this?
Well,
No.
I want to follow my sword here.
Okay.
So
Yeah. You're
when I
correct in
wrote
what you read
this,
in the background.
Okay.
So you are right.
Okay.
you're right.
We have a,
According to the background, but we checked with the Department of Revenue today. So in the flurry of bills in action at the end of the session, which is always a 3 or 4 day circus in a way, what was in a bill that was entered was to do exactly that. And I was assured that that was the case, and I hadn't seen anything else in the follow-on. But we double-checked, and the mayor also checked with the executive director of the Municipal League, and that was dropped. It can come back this fall in the veto session, because it had been entered in the spring session. And whether it'll be imposed or not, we don't know. It's important to
know it'll be
note, though,
imposed.
it's at least possible.
It's not
Because
like
right
totally
now-
dead, out of the way.
Right
No.
now, we are paying an administrative fee, and it's for our non-home rule sales tax, which is our 1% tax, not to confuse this with the grocery tax. Of the 6 1/4, we get 1, state gets 5, and the county gets 1/4. Also, 911, which most of you don't deal with, but that's a 2% charge, and that has to do with the fees that you pay every time you use your phone. And then the cannabis, 1.5%. So generally speaking, 1.5% or more is being charged as a carrying charge to perform a service for us. And if the service is not also benefiting the state, then I suspect if the state came to us and said, would you mind administering a certain tax, we'd probably say, well, I think the council would want to be paid for some of that. But it's not out of the question, but I didn't mean to mislead.
Okay.
I had it on good authority, but not good enough authority. So-
Well, it's
But-
out at different places too.
E-
It's
Even
not
at,
just here.
even at the IML, when they were negotiating this last minute to get that removed, that was a concession. Everyone knows that, of course, the state's going to charge us an administrative fee at some point. But the way it's on the books as of January 1st, 2026, no. But I'm sure it's going to come up, no doubt about it, because that's originally what their intent was. Mine, just to make a few comments. Did the governor call you about the possibility of removing the grocery tax on a state level to find out the impact on
No.
us? No. Okay. So he just cut out $800,000 out of our budget for what
Potentially,
benefit?
yeah.
And here's why I'm being snarky on this. So we've got a governor who has done a lot of great things in the state of Illinois, especially when it comes to data centers and economic development. But on this one, this was a perfect opportunity for the governor of our great state to eliminate a tax that impacted his budget zero. Not 1 penny impacts the state budget. So he looks like a hero, and then what he says is, but if you want to keep it, all 1,294 municipalities, you can have this brought before your councils and you can vote on it, which I thought was done in really poor form. And it's just another example of the state continuously trying to remove local control. The governor made a decision about how we should take care of the people that elected us to be up here to represent them. To me, that is ridiculous. When we look at that $800,000, when I think about what we're doing in the city of DeKalb, and we talk about the poorest of the poor, well, Annie-Glidden North is 25% of our population and 10% of our geography. When we think of police, over 65% of all of our calls, Annie-Glidden North. What have we been doing? We've been hiring more police officers. We've been reducing crime in that area. 30% we've reduced crime overall in the city of DeKalb. Who is that impacting? The exact people we're talking about with the grocery tax. When we look at the human services funding, we just made a decision we wanted to go from 235 to 300,000. That's Safe Passages, Hope Havens, the Meals on Wheels that Alderwoman Larson was talking about. We get to control the dollars that we have, and we get to decide who is going to be impacted by it the most, and we allocate those dollars accordingly. Lead pipes. We've been replaced, we're going to have all lead pipes replaced, hopefully, but it looks like we will by next year. That's unheard of, right? That's because we chose how we want to use our dollars and where we're going to prioritize them. Roads. I mean, my gosh, we've all heard over and over and over again about roads. And here we are spending $4.5 million on roads this year. We've also replaced the roads and infrastructure in Annie-Glidden North as well. When you think of the Ridge, you think of Russell, you think of Greenbrier. My point to this is it really does irritate me that the state is choosing for political reasons to make choices for the people that we represent. And having just gone through the election cycle, I heard public safety. I want to dial 911. I want the fire department EMTs at my door as soon as possible. I want the police there in a domestic. I want the police pulling people over. I want new roads. I want to drive on those. I want all those things. I want to take care of those in need. We all know DeKalb has a huge heart. I mean, this population is just absolutely phenomenal in how we really look to make the biggest difference we can, which is why we have the only homeless shelter in the county, right? Safe Passage. We have a women's shelter. That's here in the city of DeKalb. We do those things. We lead when it comes to the county. But we do that because we have the dollars that we raise through taxation, and we allocate them accordingly to what we believe is going to make the biggest impact to those that are in need the most. So for me, this is not, we're not raising a tax, and I know people are playing that online, but we're not raising a tax. This tax has been around since what, 1990? Something like that? We're just continuing. It's just status quo. So then we can make the choice on where we want the dollars to go in our community and who we want them to impact. So for me, I'm definitely keep the grocery tax in place. That $800,000, that is a large amount of money. That is a lot of personnel. As Bill said, 80% of our budget is all people. That's cops, that's public works, when water mains break, and that's fire department. And that's finance to make sure we've got
Yep.
great credit rating that also helps us get better interest rates when it comes to loans. And if anyone questions this council and our commitment to making it more affordable to live in the city of DeKalb, then open up your tax bill again and look at it. We have reduced property taxes over and over and over again. So when we have the opportunity, we do that. But to just some politician arbitrarily for their own political benefit to impact us to the tune of $800,000, I'm not on board for that. Yes, Alderman Walker.
Hey, City Manager, I got a question. I'm not really familiar with the SNAP program, but a couple of people that was talking to me about it, they were saying that there could be federal cuts to that program. So now I'm just, hindsight's 20/20, but I'm just thinking, so if that was to happen, you know, and some of those people would be the most vulnerable to that tax. So that's my only concern with it.
Well, then we'd have another conversation. You know, we don't know that that would actually happen, but if it did happen and if it was nationwide, I guess we'd have that conversation.
Yes, sir.
It'd be like with Meals on Wheels or anything, Safe Passage. Yeah, we definitely want to see if there's something we can do. Alderwoman Zazata.
With that, I just want to add that the second and third quintiles are not rolling in cash. So
Yeah,
I just want to be very clear about that.
Yes.
That these other quintiles are struggling as well.
So that's an interesting point. So I thought to myself, well, then what's the next program above the SNAP program? The fact is there is none.
Right.
There isn't one anywhere. Not in this state, not in any state. There, nobody, and sometimes, I guess at the bottom of that second quintile is the, quote, working poor, so people might be doing two jobs, but they don't qualify for the SNAP program, but they're just over for better or worse, and so now what are they doing? But because sociologists and demographers and so forth have never come up with a program for the rest, and where you'd stop and where you'd start, and what that benefit should be. There were people 10 years ago talking about a guaranteed income for everybody in the United States, $20,000 a year, who was below a certain level of family income. With the trillions of dollars that were spent during COVID and since. And I did just a few numbers today on where we are with debt. We just went through our own audit, so I can tell you, City of DeKalb's debt is right, what locals are going to be obligated for, and it's 93% pensions, two pension funds, $3,840 a person. The federal debt per capita currently, or in 2024, so those are the latest numbers we have too, $106,000. Here's something interesting, but this is just a general obligation debt. It's not the budget deficit in the state of Illinois. There's another $2,100, but then you double that when you add the, and so all of that is there. So we're not, as a state or as a country, able to start thinking about guaranteed income anywhere. So other than what we have, that kind of a program that we have, which varies according to household size and household income. And it has to be the persons most in need, those who most in danger of failing as a family and failing as a household. So failing another program, so I don't think we can deal with that second and third, that would be a nice tabletop conversation, but we have no program that's been vetted and tested politically or legally to offer.
So knowing where, basically what I've heard and knowing the position of the two that are not here today, I would say we can move forward, bring this before council. We'll have another discussion on it. But I would say it's not wasting your time to put this together as a
Okay.
resolution or an
Thank you.
ordinance that needs to be changed. Yep. All right, moving on to agenda item 2, considerations of whether or not to include vape vending in locally licensed bars. City manager.
It's a little different.
Yeah.
So there are some health issues here that are a little more easy to define. So you saw a picture of the type of machine. There are other machines that we could gotten pictures for, but basically you use a credit card. You don't throw money in these things, and you get a package and you rip off the top and you can inhale it. And what are you inhaling? Well, it's not even tobacco smoke. It's some chemical something that's activated by the tear, I suppose. And I don't know if the Food and Drug Administration looks at these things and says, yeah, that'll pick you up, and it'll, it's great for the liver and every other thing. I think this is clearly a vehicle, and we've heard about this in so many ways in the last couple of generations of getting, now even though this is for 21-year-olds and supposedly in bars, but people who buy them can give them to anybody. And it's a delivery system for people underage, as I see it, to get hooked on something. And I think it's an atrocity. So it's come to our attention that there have been vendors coming by the city manager's office to say, we'd like to do this, and we find that there's nothing in our code that allows it. We'd like to disallow it, to take away any doubt. So that's our recommendation to you.
And I thought, based off of our conversation on tobacco shops and stuff like that, that this would be something bring forward and see if we want to.
If you're okay with it, we'll bring it back.
Yeah. So yes, Alderwoman Zada.
I just want to clarify, I see the question before the council is more specific to the hemp products rather than to these machines.
That's the next one.
It's two separate topics.
Oh, I skipped ahead,
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Okay.
We'll get to the hemp.
We'll get
Cool,
to the
cool, cool.
hemp.
So, all right. Yeah, I think everybody
This is
has
just vape
always
vending,
been
yeah.
against this, yeah.
What do y'all think? Have them come forward with an ordinance? Okay.
Please.
All right.
Okay.
All right, moving on to consideration number 3, consideration of whether or not to permit the sale of unregulated hemp-derived THC, tetrahydrocannabinol products in the city of DeKalb. City manager.
So a lot of history here. I mean, going back into the Second World War, government was paying farmers to grow hemp for a variety of reasons, and it wasn't to smoke it, but being used for military purposes, for the binding, making rope, and other things. But then it kind of went out of fashion, but in 2018, after some good years and bad years in agriculture, the Farm Bill, which is a large comprehensive bill every year, touches on a lot of things, but one of the things it touched on was to encourage farmers so interested to grow industrial hemp, and they could do this and sell it in bulk. And then some others saw that there was a loophole there, and in addition to getting in bulk, maybe they could get it in. They might buy it in bulk or buy the 50-pound bag and throw it into some nice big pretzel jars and put it on their checkout lane in a tobacco store. And people come in and think, holy cow, I don't have to go to a dispensary. I can buy that stuff. I mean, it looks like, it smells like, cannabis because it's part of the cannabis plant. The concern that we are, Alderman Powell brought this to my attention a couple months ago, is that if you can buy it in bulk, then outside of these stores, in a basement, in a garage, someplace, you can boil this stuff down and you can create a syrupy something that has a much bigger punch to it than if you were to take what is basically twigs and throw it into a paper cigarette and try to smoke it. It'll make you choke or cough, but it won't give you a high. We've tested a couple of local stores that have this prominently displayed, and they have come within the legal contours of what we will permit. But I wanted to bring it to you because partly because Alderman Powell recommended it, but also because it's obvious that there are things that could be done that are beyond our reach. Hemp of this type is not regulated like the cannabis that we see in the dispensaries. They have to document the history of each product that they're selling. They meaning the dispensaries, from seed to ingestion or smoking. Not the same with this type of product. And so if we don't want to regulate it, that'd be one of the options. Another would be maybe suspend the sale until we can see what others are doing and whether we want to try to regulate it, or we could ban it altogether.
It looks like more municipalities are starting to do just that. I think there's 5 states already that have banned it completely.
And here's what, this is what's worrying, and I was saying with the vape vending, how the end market is often persons underage. So now there are copycat products with these types of hemp ingredients. And just imagine if you're 13 or 15 and you get something that looks like Cheetos, and the title is Flamin' Hot Cheetos. And they use Cheetos, which I thought was a trademark name, but evidently not. And it looks good, and it's multicolored, and there's some fine print saying it's a hemp product, but you're going to eat it, and it may not be so good, but I don't know, if you're drinking enough pop or beer, whatever. And a Cookie Cat Crunch, Sour Slizzles, all this stuff. Now, who is that? It's not aimed toward an old fellow like me. Maybe it is. Maybe I'll just dumb into it. But generally, it's for people looking for some pizzazzy stuff, underage. So it's another one of those things. My sense is the council is getting tired of these types of products being available in our community. They don't seem to add anything to the community.
Yes, Alderwoman Zazata.
I would probably lean towards suspending the sale until we know more.
Alderman Burke.
I support C, but what would the enforcement piece look like? In other words, the compliance, the visits, covert, similar maybe to the age proof on cigarettes, et cetera?
We could do that, yep.
Okay.
So a sting-like thing, yeah.
Right.
Yep. I mean, first of all, there would be a public information, and we would have to, in fairness, we go to the dealers of this, and before we come back, we probably should do that so they can come in here and speak their piece and say that this isn't what we're doing at all. So.
Alderman Walker.
I'm on the second, Alderman Verbeek. I'm with C. Let's just get rid of it. I mean, there's absolutely no reason for it. I mean, we're just playing around with it.
Yeah, we have 2 dispensaries people can go to if they want it. So.
And like she said, with the items she sells, she can, teach you about them. So.
And all their products are completely regulated and controlled, yeah.
Have you had any? Just joking.
My sense would be that I would bring it back as an ordinance on first reading. We would in the meantime talk to proprietors, and we know who they are basically. There aren't many, but there are enough, and they're in and around the campus and fast food centers where there are people underage who are frequenting stores in the area, and they can walk in to these stores and, you know,
We'll let them know they better come prepared.
yeah, I guess.
Alderman Carlson.
A lot of people aren't, in NIU now, aren't old enough to remember the bubblegum cigarettes and the candy cigarettes they used to sell
Joe
at the
Camel,
stores.
remember that?
Yeah, Joe Camel. It was all towards the youth and the children. And we got rid of those for a reason, and it was a good reason. This really smells of the same thing to me.
Thank you.
Okay, yeah. Oh, hold
No,
on.
I'm good, I'm good, I'm good.
Okay, yeah, so we're getting heads nodding, City
Okay,
Manager.
thank you.
And I would say, I'm for C. We got 3 Cs here. I mean, we can just ban it, and if things change, we can always change the ordinance in the future. That's my consideration. Yeah, I got more heads nodding, so, okay. All right, so moving on to resolutions, agenda item J, number 1, resolution 2025-063, receiving and filing the FY 2024 Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, ACFR, Single Audit Report, Report on Compliance with Public Act 85-1142, TIF Report, Downstate Operating Assistance Certification, and Independent Auditors Reports, Illinois Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, Consolidated Year-End Financial Report, CYEFR, and Management Letter. Can I have a motion to bring this to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Larson, seconded by Alderman Verbeck. City Manager.
Mr. LaFever gave you a very general background. I've given you some tables here that we prepared for your review, primarily the general fund, which is what we're most familiar with, and probably spend the most public time on every year, every budget season. The balances of all the city funds are shown on page 11 of your background. And I just point out one thing, and this has some bearing also on the grocery tax that we talked about earlier. Every dollar in our general fund reserve, which is growing, and it's now substantial compared to where it was 5-6 years ago, is cheating the devil. And what's the devil? That someday, we don't know when, a major portion of that, maybe all of that, maybe we have to keep going. We don't know where we're going to be for the settlement of this downstate pension issues
Crisis.
with us. Yeah. I get tired sometimes of saying crisis because we use it so much, and I don't know.
Apocalypse.
So, 107 million more or less of all of the city's long-term debt consists of our net pension liabilities. And so we have 35 million in the kitty. So 3 times that is what we owe. So we have to take care of business. You have to serve the public, just as we do. And we have to do roads, and we have to pay for personnel and commodities and contractual obligations and all the rest of that. So we can't stop spending. And every once in a while, we take on an initiative that the public is demanding, and we do it because it's the right thing to do. And to not have done it would have been to do harm to our community. But while we're doing all that, this is growing. And even though we had a good year in the market, and that was good, but we're not making up the ground. It just made it a little bit easier to stay where we are. We're not slipping back, so we're about where we are. So the legislature, I will say, had a couple bills before it to although it was kicking the ball down the road, it would have provided 4 or 5 years of some relief on our property tax side by pushing the deadline where we have to be 90% funded from 2040 to 2050, but none of that happened.
Correct.
None of those bills were approved. So where we were a year ago in terms of what's the answer, what's going to happen. And so I just remind you, no matter how good we do, it's over here. And Tom Tarasinsky just retired from our Finance Advisory Committee, but he would always remind us every year, just be aware that we don't know who's going to ask us to pay the bill and how much they're going to ask us to pay. So we try to be prudent. We go along. We don't try not to spend too much, Alderman Verbeek said, we try to live within our means. We try not to go past what would be considered the natural growth in revenue. Our revenue did grow this year. The biggest bump, which was unexpected and it was nice, was on the interest side, and then also state income tax was higher on a per capita basis than any of us thought. But the largest category, sales and use taxes, only grew about 0.5%. Now, as the dollars go up, that's a larger number, but it's still not a rip-roaring trend. So I think congratulations to us for doing well, having a good fiscal year in '24. This is our stepping off point for 2026, really, because we're using the information, the best information at our disposal for planning a year ahead is what happened a year ago. There's something messed up about that, but that's how we have to play it.
Any comments or questions on the auditor's report? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Verbeek,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zazada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes,
Yes.
6-0.
Resolution 2025-063 passes. Now moving on to one of the most exciting agenda topics. Resolution 2025-064, approving a restaurant full liquor license for
Yes.
Florentino's Char House LLC at 106 East Lincoln Highway. Can I have a motion to bring this awesome agenda item to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Carlson, seconded by Alderwoman Larson. City Manager, do
It is
tell.
exciting, and the place has been vacant for a while, and it looks like we're going to get another kind of cuisine that we would, I think, all enjoy in a downtown area.
And my understanding is there is items from the original Johnny's Char House that will be on this menu, and I'm hoping it's the spicy shrimp. Oh, that was so good. All right, any comments or questions on this? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Walker,
Yes.
Zazada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Verbeek,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes,
Yes.
6-0.
Resolution 2025-064 passes. Moving on to number 3, Resolution 2025-065, authorizing a professional services agreement with Civil Engineering Services Incorporated. Can I have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Verbeek, seconded by Alderwoman Zazada. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. We have been using the services of CES Engineering for almost 2 months now, actually 2 months, as an interim solution to our need for, continuing need, especially in a very busy summer like this, for engineering consulting, overall the various projects that we're doing, and we're doing some Whopper projects. And we're not seeing a lot of interest, not because DeKalb's not an interesting place to work, especially if you're an engineer right now. It would be busy, busy, busy. But it's like a lot of trades and professions. This time of year, when most of the action happens, it's been planned and drawn over the winter. If you're not working, may not, there are always anomalies out there. This person wants to change a job and so forth, but we're not seeing that, and failing that, we're not getting much interest. So we are working with that, and I thank our HR for, we've changed not the description, but we've changed compensation, a few other things. We're going to get a replacement, but my authority stops at $20,000 without your approval, so this is a contract at the same rates that we set up back in early April, and it's of great value to us. Andy Rye and Justin Netzer, who are in the audience tonight, and I are doing our best to pull things together, but none of us have a PE after our name. So, and we have really good consulting engineers who are doing the oversight for construction, engineering, and coordination on 4 different big projects. but somebody has to step back and look over all of it and make sure we're on budget and so forth. And I'm doing the best I can. I unfortunately impersonate lawyers all the time, but I can't impersonate an engineer.
It's a lot easier.
No, it's not. It's just habit, that's all.
Any comments or questions? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Zazada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
6 yea.
Resolution 2025-065 passes. Number 4, Resolution 2025-066, authorizing supplemental FY 2025 human services funding. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderwoman Zazada, seconded by Alderman Carlson. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. We talked about this at the last regular meeting, and you directed me to bring back a resolution that would, in this case, adjust our allocation for the human services funding and increase it from $225,000 to $300,000 for this fiscal year. If you approve it, and we're recommending that you do, we would go through an accelerated process like the one we use in the late winter or really it's the early winter, and that you vote on in January typically, because the need is there and enough agencies have come to us that we want to try to push the money out. And it's for 4 categories. It's not for everything that we typically do. It's basically for the essentials: housing, food, also care for the elderly and disabled, because we're hearing from it's a little more than a handful, but it's half of the agencies that are, other agencies are hurting too, but you can't get more essential than this, so, in general categories. So that's what we want to do, and we would bring back our recommendations to you, and we'll try to do that within 30 days so we can get something pushed out.
Council, questions or comments? Excellent. Roll call, please.
Larson,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zazada,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
Thank you.
6 yea.
Resolution 2025-066 passes. That's just wonderful. Number 5, Resolution 2025-067, authorizing the award of a contract with Tri-R Systems Incorporated to upgrade the Supervisory Control and Data Acquisition SCADA system in an amount not to exceed $606,000 with staff authority to approve change orders up to $666,600. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderwoman Larson, seconded by Alderwoman Zazada. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. This is in our 2025 water fund budget. Actually, it's the water capital fund budget. We had allocated money for the replacement of our monitoring and control infrastructure for our water treatment facilities. That upgrade is critical right now. We've just about worn out the current program that we have. It's vitally important to not only keep levels and processes going, but it also, any time of the day or night, 365 days a year, gives us alerts to when something is not working right. If we appear to be draining a well, or not a well, but a tower, excuse me, or a well nods off. Things like this, which in a pretty short period of time can throw the system out of whack. We need to know that. So we went out for bid. I want to thank Justin Netzer for doing that. We got 2 bids, one from Tri-R Systems, one from Concentric. Significant difference between the two. Tri-R has the experience and the capability to perform the work. Their contract was not to, what we're asking is a not to exceed allocation of $606,000. When you go to a not exceed, that means if it's $1 over, I got to come back to you and say $606,001. So we put a larger than probably necessary contingency in here, but we are, once we start pulling out what's there, we want to rush to put in what needs to replace it. And so obviously, we don't have to spend it if it's not necessary, but we asked for a 10% contingency on top of that. So the resolution before you would award the contract in an amount of $606,000, but we have some staff authority to add change orders if necessary to meet whatever the requirements are to finish the job.
Council, questions, comments? Hearing none, roll call.
Carlson,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zazada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
6 yeas.
Resolution 2025-067 passes. Moving on to number 6, Resolution 2025-068, authorizing the award of a contract to Westside Tractor Sales Company for the purchase of snow removal equipment and authorizing a professional services agreement with Crawford, Murray, and Tilley Incorporated for design engineering services in an amount not to exceed $602,254.48, with a local share not to exceed $60,225.48. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Verbic, seconded by Alderman Carlson. City Manager.
Thank you, Mayor. Ben Trumpeter, who's our manager of airport services, is not here tonight, but Andy Rye is here, our Public Works Director, and I can tell you that they are pleased as punch that we have this opportunity. The city has been selected to get grant support. It's part of the Rebuild Illinois Capital Bill that goes back to 2019, but there's still some money left for airport infrastructure and equipment. And the equipment, in this case, is what we have been sorely lacking. We've been borrowing Public Works to go out and you know, it strips. When we have a heavy snowfall, we can't say to flyers, like for instance, if you've got a women's basketball team trying to fly in the next day, and we have some time to clear the runways and the side pavement, but we can't get to it. Because we don't have enough equipment to go around. So we've got a chance to get some first-rate equipment. So what's before you are some bids. Westside Tractor was the lowest bid at $565,000. We are only on the hook for 10% of this. We have budgeted for the 10% this year as part of our TIP program, and we want to proceed as fast as possible to grab this stuff, order it so we have it in time for the winter snow system.
Council, questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zazada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
6 yeas.
Resolution 2025-068 passes. Agenda item K, ordinances, second reading, we have none. Agenda item L, ordinances, first reading. Number 1, ordinance 2025-026, authorizing an amendment to the special use permit approved by ordinance 2023-021 in order to extend the time frame for a modular classroom to remain on the site of 1133 North 13th Street, Little John Elementary School. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Carlson, seconded by Alderwoman Zazada. City Manager.
Thank you. Fair amount of background here. We have been happy to support the school district in recent years to help with the enrollment press on available facilities at the Little John Elementary School. The modular option has been pursued since 2001. The school district has been working toward the reduction in class sizing, which we think will help and the district feels will help. Tammy Carson's here tonight. This is the middle of the night for you, isn't it? Early riser. But she was here to answer any questions you may have, but we're not at a point where this is not needed, and we're looking to extend the allowance by special use. The Planning and Zoning Commission, looked at this a week ago and recommended unanimously that the council take this up for one more extension, so 3-year extension, and we support their recommendation.
Council, questions or comments? Yes, Alderwoman Larson.
My question is, we've had some building down in Devonair, so hopefully those are family, bringing kids in. And I think all of us on council, the next thing we're looking for is some major developer to come in. So I guess I'm kind of asking the school board, do you have plans that are going to start eliminating? Because there's one here, there's one at Brooks, right? Is there just 2? Where else are there?
Come on up, Tammy, yeah.
Are there plans coming up that these are going to get replaced?
Actually, with the opening of Mitchell Elementary, which is opening in August, we are reducing our class size from 28 maximum per class down to 25, which is our district goal at the elementary level. In regards to the mobile classrooms, the Brooks Elementary mobile is already being removed this summer. So with the opening of Mitchell, that one is already being removed. Jefferson Elementary also has a mobile classroom that is not leased. It is owned by the district, and we will not be using that for student use any longer, so that will be used for storage primarily, or office space. So that was coming out of use also, even with reduction of class size to 25. The mobiles that we still will have in use throughout the district for our students is at Cortland Elementary, Lincoln Elementary, and this unit at Littlejohn Elementary. I would like to state this unit at Littlejohn, we have opted to swap it out from the current unit that is there to a new unit, which is brand new. The current unit does not have restroom facilities in there, and it doesn't have an entryway vestibule where the kids can stomp their feet and get the dirt and snow off of their feet before entering the classroom spaces. And the new unit we're bringing in will have that in place.
So are there future plans to get rid of the rest of them? Like I said, if a developer came in, within a year, you could be having a major influx of students.
That is our goal. We do know we have space should the need arise that we could put more students into the classrooms and increase our 25 count again. We would prefer to not do that. We have some plans we've been discussing over the years with the board that include additions at some properties. I'll use an example of Lincoln. Because the Lincoln building is so small, that's the current structure that stands there. It is a 2-section school, meaning there are 2 classes of each grade level. There isn't space in that building to even accommodate a music classroom, which is what is out in the mobile right now. So to be able to get rid of the mobile classroom at Lincoln, we would have to put an addition onto Lincoln to be able to add more classroom space. At that time, we'd look at adding possibly a cafeteria or gymnasium to give them 2 large spaces. So that is some plans we've had in the works. It's just preliminary discussions, but nothing with specific timelines attached.
Okay.
Any other comments or questions? Real quick, my daughter was home for the weekend, and she was raiding one of my trunks in the crawl space of concert tees from back in the day, and came across a February 2008 Chronicle that I had saved of when the referendum passed to build a new high school, which was really cool. That was a blast from the past, and that was a moment that night, which was really cool.
Sure is.
Hearing no other comments or questions, thank you, Tammy. Roll call, please.
Walker,
Yes.
Zazada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
6 yeas.
Ordinance 2025-026 passes on first reading. I would take a motion to waive second reading.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Carlson, seconded by Alderwoman Zazada. Any comments and questions on that? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Zazada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
6 yeas.
Second reading has been waived for ordinance 2025-026. Moving on to number 2, ordinance 2025-027. Take care, Tammy. Amending Chapter 51, Traffic, Schedule C, Parking Prohibited to establish a no parking zone in the 200 and 300 block of Ridge Drive. Can I have a motion to bring it to the floor?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderwoman Zazada, seconded by Alderwoman Larson. City Manager.
This is pretty straightforward. It's just to remove the parking on either side of the traffic calming islands on Ridge so that it doesn't pose a hazard to persons who are navigating the calming and seeing no place to go.
Is there a stop sign there or no?
No.
Do you know? Okay, I thought there was, okay. Questions or comments on that? Yes, Alderwoman Zazata?
I know the residents of the First Ward have been begging for this for a long time and pushing for it and just trying to find something to resolve the issues on Ridge. So I'm very excited to see this coming to fruition. And I know I talked about this with our previous city engineer years ago. So
Yes.
it's thrilling to see it come to fruition.
I've heard from a lot of
It's his
residents as
legacy.
well.
These are his plans, so hopefully it works.
All right, any other comments or questions? Oh, Alderwoman Larson.
So, will there be any kind of enforcement of these things? Because I know moms trying to pick up their kids after school can be pretty demanding. So I guess I'm just like, or like we talked about, you can put any kind of speed limit sign, but that doesn't mean that that's what people are gonna do. So I guess because I just, if you've ever been there, we know that Ridge is fast, and that's what we're trying to calm down. But those kids, when they get out and they see their mom on the other side, they just run. They want to get home. They want to get in their car. And I just worry that it still might not, we still might have some serious problem at one time.
If I could.
Yes, Chief.
Yeah.
No, just saying that one of the things we do is a little bit more extensive education before we open up that area. So we can have some town hall meetings and just actually talk about that prior to the opening of the school. It might help. I'll talk to the superintendent about that because I know that is a major concern. So I think if we met prior to the first day of school opening up, at least we could have a plan. The SROs, of course, will still be in the area, and then we'll handle it accordingly as we see issues arise. So.
And this is an improvement over, because what you're describing is that right now. So this is a pretty significant improvement to at least try and get everyone to slow down, but yeah.
Well, and just to reassure people, there is a crossing guard there. There is a crosswalk. It is heavily used. My kids go to school there. I pick up over there also. And so I'm thrilled that the SROs are going to be able to be there to enforce things, and hopefully that'll slow everything down.
I don't know if the SROs will be there, but.
Yeah, no, they will.
Okay.
They'll be on the grounds, and especially once as we get through the opening of because we don't know what this is going to look like. So we would like to at least have them available.
Gotcha.
They can assess the situation, and then we could, like I said, we'll go forward from there.
Alderman Walker?
I will say that is a very hectic street, but I will say, City Manager, when I gave you a call, what's the officer name that's been doing a pretty good job over there?
I don't want to say his name, but I know who it is. Yeah.
Okay, well, yeah.
He does a good, he's not the only one.
Yeah, we shouldn't say his name, but for me, of what I've seen,
Yeah.
just for parents,
Yeah.
this certain officer is a good man, but he's been out there and he doesn't play around, and he's very respectable. But one day I seen how he was kind of telling, a speeder that he did give a ticket to, but was trying to, explain to him, a kid may not see you. A
That's
kid
right.
could just like Alderman Larson said, Alderwoman Larson said, a kid may not see you, so you have to slow down and this and right. So I'm sorry we can't give his name, but if you could tell Chief, tell him I said thank
I
you.
will.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Roll call, please.
Larson,
Yes.
Carlson,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zazada,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
6 yeas.
Ordinance 2025-027 passes on first reading. I'd take a motion to waive second reading.
Motion to waive second reading and approve.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Verbic, seconded by Alderman Carlson. Any comments or questions on that? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Carlson,
Yes.
Verbic,
Yes.
Walker,
Yes.
Zazada,
Yes.
Larson,
Yes.
Mayor Barnes.
Yes.
6 yeas.
Second reading has been waived for ordinance 2025-027. Moving on to agenda item M, reports and communications. 1, council member reports. Alderman Verbic, you want to kick us off?
Sure, I was honored to be a guest at Opportunity DeKalb's Business Academy Breakthrough Community. I can't remember the exact
Breakthrough
order
Academy?
of words, shall we say. But nonetheless, congratulations to all the graduates and outstanding work by Opportunity DeKalb. Certainly dating back to 2017 with our meetings at Annie Glidden North, this is a real product of all those discussions during that time. So congrats to all.
Alderman Carlson.
I've got three again. In the first 3 weeks, of course, people are starting to figure out that now I'm alderman, so they're getting a hold of me. And one of the main things is lawns. And so I just want to put it out there, mow your lawns, or if not, the neighbors are going to call me, then I'm going to get the city. We're going to get your lawns mowed. So there are a lot of services out there, and I understand if you're going through, like, someone passes away. I just had that with my family and my cousin. He passed away. We're all taking care of the lawns. Just do it for your neighbors. The second, for my Aunt Pat, fireworks is coming up, and 4th of July. And she made me come out here and say this. She's been saying it for 6 months, so I'm going to say it. Everyone be careful. And the police there's more police that are going to be going around. I know Police Chief Byrd gets these calls. Be cool. That's all I ask, because of the animals, because of all the veterans and that. It seems like it starts earlier and earlier every year, the fireworks. They're going to get you eventually, and be nice to your neighbors. The last thing on a positive, I went on Saturday to a graduation for a third-generation DeKalb graduate, NIU graduate. And I get to go to these quite a bit. And I think everyone just kind of looks at it and sees, oh, they're in this town. Of course they do that. No, it was great to see again. And I get to go to these a lot. And that's always been, when I was a little kid, the dreams. To go through the DeKalb public school system, to then stay in DeKalb, go to NIU, get your degree, and then move on in life. And this young lady was awesome. Her family's great. And it was great to see that again from another young person. In the 4th Ward, too. So it was great.
Alderwoman Larson.
No report.
Alderwoman Zazada.
I'd like to address my recent absences. So I've started a new full-time job. Originally, we'd only anticipated 3 of those absences. Then a couple of other things cropped up and couldn't be avoided. It is frustrating. I discussed attending virtually because now by statute, it is allowed for us to attend virtually. However, it would be an extra expense to the taxpayers. We don't have that set up. So I have been reading the agenda, watching the meeting minutes afterward, watching the meetings on YouTube afterward, making sure I'm abreast of what's going on. I don't anticipate this being a consistent issue. I am aware of one more meeting that I must miss coming up for work purposes, and I'm going to do my very best moving forward to work with my new employer to ensure that travel does not happen while I have city council meetings. And I will say that I've done my very best and been very consistent about not missing meetings in the past. The weekend I had my hip surgery, I was here on Monday. The weekend my father died, I was here that Monday also. So I'm doing my best, and I hope to do more of that.
Alderman Walker.
Hey, that's very stand-up of you. I support you. So my dog and I, were walking around the neighborhood, So I got to take him to his first business meeting. We sat down with Ryan Holmes, and I'm glad to tell everybody we have just 5 lots left. That was as of last Wednesday. So I had a little barbecue. I wanted people to see me outside of being an alderman and a UPS driver, and it's just great. They say a lot of great things about DeKalb and our area, and we're trying to take over Mayor Barnes's area over in Greenwood Acres. So we're trying to turn it into a new Greenwood Acres. So.
All right, for me, I was on TD Ryan's podcast. He got back together with Dan, and they actually did a 45-minute just local news podcast. So if you're not familiar with TD Ryan, you got to Google TD Ryan. He'll be on Facebook, and he's doing a podcast. He was an amazing DJ on WLBK, amazing local community steward, and what?
No, Alderwoman
Oh, yeah.
Zada was on today.
Yep.
On TD.
So it was
I
just
listened to it. I just wanted to give her.
it's a great opportunity to just find out what's going on in the community, which is cool. Also was at the Experimental Aircraft Association's breakfast out at the airport. I don't know, Ben, it's like hundreds of people showed up. I mean, I think when I was there had to be 100 plus that actually made it out. They said it was a record year. There must have been 25 planes. And the whole goal is they raise money to be able to provide scholarships for young men and women to get their pilot's license. And that breakfast is what got my daughter started in high school, got her a pilot's license, and she just graduated with an aerospace engineering degree from Georgia Tech. So it just shows what those kind of events, what they can trigger or be a catalyst in a young man or young woman's life. So it was just great to see it was just that well attended. And then also met with Chief Byrd, city manager, and our new state's attorney, Riley Onken. You know, we've been having conversations, and Alderman Powell was asking the question about what can we do more. We've recently had a rash of some shootings, maybe 3 in the last 5 weeks, Chief, something like that, 2 resulting in people being shot. And it's really just coming down to, we have done some amazing things as a council. We've really moved the needle in our community. It is so much safer than it was. You know, we saw that statistic of 30% reduction in crime from 2023 to 2024. But these events show us we have a lot more work to do. And policing isn't the only way to handle this. So we've got another meeting scheduled with some community leaders this Wednesday to continue the conversation on what can we do to reduce violence, and especially our youth being involved in violence in our community. So a lot of conversations have been happening on that, a lot of activity, and we're hoping to have some ideas that we can bring before council on how we're going to improve even further the work that we've been doing in order to continue to make DeKalb as safe as possible for everyone here. And then just 2 reminders, June 21st is Pride Fest. That starts at noon, downtown DeKalb. Last year, they had to have 50 vendors there. I mean, it was just really cool. So I'd highly recommend everyone come out to Pride Fest. And then also that Sunday is Juneteenth. It starts as noon as well, and that'll be out at Hopkins Park. So 2 great events. It'll be an action-packed weekend, and I encourage everyone to go out and enjoy those. How about you, City Manager?
No report.
All right, then moving on to agenda item N, executive session, we have none, which gets us to O, adjournment. I would take a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Moved by Alderwoman Larson, seconded by Alderwoman Zazada. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Nay, same sign. We are adjourned.